Okay, we're recording. Hello, everybody. Good evening. My name is Kristy Jenliek, and I am going to be one of the trainers this evening. I am up in North Dakota, so for those of you in this area, I think we were actually really close to zero today. I'm not sure, but it felt nice out. So we're gonna go with zero because I decided I'm not complaining about 0 degrees anymore after this last January and February. So thank you again for joining me this evening. I'm going to be doing some training tonight on growth and mindset. In fact, I'm going to be talking about the 3 F words to growth. And after that, we are going to have Brenda King join us, and she is going to give us an introduction to NERF 1. Not an introduction, she's going to give us some information about NERF 1, her story a little bit about coming into LifeVantage, and then we're going to be done. So we are going to do our best to stay on time and respect all of you this evening. So getting started, the 3 F words to growth. This is a process that I came up with as I have been going through this journey. About 2.5 years ago, I began on a very intentional personal growth journey. And what I discovered in that process is that unfortunately for me, I'm somebody who likes to make a to-do list and create check boxes and then check them off as I complete each box. And that's how I wanted to move through this growth and this mindset journey. And it doesn't work that way. It doesn't quite work just to do something or figure something out one time and then that's all you have to do it. This process of mindset is really an ongoing process. It's not one that you start and then you're done with just like that. So I'm not going to talk so much about the how-tos or the tools. There are so many tools out there, and LifeVantage does a phenomenal job of showing us those tools and giving us those tools. But I'm going to really talk about this as a process. It's more of a guidebook for you. And I found that these are the 3 steps that I kept coming back to as I was going along my journey. And the part that I like the best about this is that no matter where I am in the process, sometimes I get a little off the ship. I take a little detour. Sometimes I'm right on path. Sometimes I'm just moving forward and I'm doing what I know I need to do. But no matter where you are in your journey, if you haven't started a growth journey, if you're in the middle of a growth journey, or if you've been on a growth journey, I feel like this process is one that you can come back to at all times and that you can reconnect with at anywhere during this path and during this journey. So for me, this started, as I said, 2.5 years ago, and it all started with a question for me. I was at a spot in my life where I wasn't happy, and I looked around my life and I thought, why? Because I have all the pieces to a really, really great life. I have a great job, I have a great marriage, I have a great family, I have a great house. All the pieces were there, but there was something that was missing inside of me. And I had no idea what it was. I had no idea how to find it. I didn't know where to look. I didn't know the how-tos. And I felt stuck. I just felt stuck. And then one day I was with a group of people and we were having a conversation. And my friend asked me if you could didn't ask me, she asked our group, if you could do anything for a day. Time wasn't an issue, money was an issue. You could snap your fingers and you would be wherever you wanted to be, doing whatever you wanted to be doing. What would you do? So we were going around and people were sharing these amazing ideas of going, to Bali or Egypt or wherever their dream, whatever's on their bucket list, their dream list, that's what they were saying. And my answer was, I would sleep. I wanted to sleep. That was it. And my friend looked at me and she knows me and she knows that I like to travel and I like adventure. And she said, that's really your answer, is to sleep? And I said, yes, I would love to go in my bedroom, pull the covers over my head and sleep for 24 hours with no interruptions. That sounds like the best day to me. And she sincerely looked at me and said, I really think you need to take a deeper look at what's going on, because sleep is not what you do. Sleep is something you need. It's not something you do as a choice for fun. And that is when I realized that I needed to make some changes, and I needed to make some big changes in my life. And I didn't necessarily know how, but I knew that I was going to start somewhere. So here's where I started. This actually began a little bit between some Tony Robbins and some John Maxwell for me in reading. And as I began to collect tools in my tool chest, I began to start taking steps forward. So first F word, as you are thinking about this and moving forward, the first F word for me is feelings. This is all about clarity. You need to know how you feel right now in this moment. How do you feel? And then you need to know, how do you want to feel? So for me, in those moments, I was feeling overwhelmed and busy. That was my life. I was all overwhelmed and busy, and I knew I wanted to feel peace. So I was here and here. I knew how I felt, and I knew how I wanted to feel. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, you then think about, so how I feel right now, where does that put me on that scale of 1 to 10? Am I a 2? Am I a 5? Am I a 7? Am I an 8? You know, where am I? Where am I on that scale? And then how you want to feel is the 10. That's your goals, to get to that 10. So for me, I felt like I was at a 3. I felt a long way from peace and calm. So what do? How do you begin that process? The one thing I want to point out about this scale before I get into the next process is this scale is a fluid scale. This isn't something that, once again, you're going to decide, okay, I feel this way now and I want to feel this way, and then you feel that and then you're done. It's a fluid scale. So wherever you are now, and as you get closer to that 10, you're going to realize that that 10 now maybe becomes a 7, because now you have a new goal. Now you have a new feeling that you want to achieve. So I really encourage you to spend some time thinking about whether it's your life in general, whether you want to take a specific situation, whether you want to look at your Life Managed business, and really sit down and determine, how do you feel in this moment? Where are you at? In order for us to move forward, as I'm going to say this a lot tonight, you truly need to gain clarity. Clarity is the key. Clarity is what's going to clear the clutter. How do you want to feel? Or how do you feel, and how do you want to feel? Where do you want to go? Brene Brown, if you don't know Brene Brown, I'll throw her out there as a potential author that you can look up. She's really phenomenal. She's a researcher, and she's a storyteller. So she has some TED Talks you can look up. She has a lot of great books. And she talks about emotional intelligence and the importance as human beings for us to have an emotional vocabulary. And in her research, she has found that to truly be able to communicate your emotions well, you need to have an emotional vocabulary of about 30 words. Now, these aren't just things that you sit for 10 minutes and you flip through emotions and you can come up with a list of 30. This needs to be when you are put to the test, when it's time to go, that you have 30 emotions that you can pick from really, really quickly. And in her research, she found that most humans, most of us, have an emotional vocabulary of 5. That typically we work from anger, fear, happy, sad, or joy. Those are our 5 emotions that most people connect with instantly. So the point here is, and the goal is to increase that emotional vocabulary so you have more to pull from than just those initial reactions. So, okay, we know how we feel, we know how we want to feel. Now what do we do next? And this is the exciting part, because this is where you begin to take action, but this is also the part that can begin to throw you off, because now as we move forward, you're going to open yourself to receiving new opportunities, receiving new energy, meeting new people. So the second F word is focus. So feelings, focus. It's time to discover, but this can quickly lead to overwhelm, especially if you already live a life of overwhelm and busy and anxiety. If you're already living in that space, this can put you right back there. So for me, that's where I was. I didn't realize that I was, quite honestly, quite addicted to living an extremely busy and overwhelmed life. I just continued to rotate on that axis, and I didn't know how to get off of it. So for me, when I started this, I started looking up everybody I knew. I started signing up for every free webinar that was available, every free workshop that was available, every free program that was available. And pretty soon, about 3 months into this, I started dreading opening my email, because all there was all these wonderful personal growth experiences and tools that I wasn't taking advantage of, that I didn't have time for. So I basically replaced an addiction of busy and overwhelmed with negative and fear, and I replaced it with personal growth overwhelm. So I want to encourage you, as you do this, to really find a way to focus and ask yourself a question. This is going to sound basic. This is kind of like network marketing. It's simple, but it's not easy. This is the same thing. You ask yourself a simple question, but it's not always easy to follow. You ask yourself, if doing this, so when something comes up to you, or an opportunity comes available, or you have to make a decision about something, you simply ask yourself, is doing this, is moving forward in this moment going to make me feel more overwhelmed and busy where I am now? Or is this going to make me feel more peace and calm? Is it going to make you feel how you're already feeling and want to move away from? Or is it going to make you feel where you want to go? That's the question. Sometimes that question is really easy to answer, and you do what you need to do. If it's going to make you feel where you already are, you need to start eliminating those pieces from your life. You need to start letting that go. If it's going to make you feel more of where you're wanting to go, start taking those steps. Start moving forward. That's your focus. Personal growth and mindset is truly about, for a while, putting the blinders on and truly focusing on yourself. You can't worry about what's going on around you. You can't worry about, now I'm not saying be neglectful, right? So hope we're all on the same page. We're not talking about being neglectful. We're not talking about, I'm a parent. I have 3 young kids. We're not talking about not being a great parent. You still obtain your daily responsibilities and your duties. But when it comes to your emotions, you guard yourself a little bit more so you can guide yourself. Okay, this is me trying to put an hour talk into a half hour or into 20 minutes. So I'm gonna keep moving forward and talk fast. So now we know our feelings, we know how we feel, we know how we want to feel. We're focused, we're asking ourselves, is this going to make me feel more of how I don't want to feel, or is this going to help me feel more of what I'm looking for? Feelings, focus. The next step is called the fury. What is the fury? This is about conflict. And I want you all to please think of conflict in a more positive way. Conflict to me is not a bad thing. I used to think it was, and I realized through this process that conflict is part of our lives. And conflict truly happens. I believe conflict is the storm before the calm. It's the storm before the beauty unfolds. We have conflict in our life. It's just, there's no way around it. If you avoid conflict, it is going to continually come back at you in the same way, in the same reasons, in the same who, what, when, where, why, how. You're going to see it over and over and over. So part of the conflict, part of this fury is going to be your own self. It's going to be what's happening inside of here. You're going to start feeling something. You're going to start moving in those directions to feel the way you want to feel. And you're going to have the self-doubt. You're going to start telling yourself, okay, am I really doing this? Is this really what I should be doing? Maybe, okay, you know what? This is getting too hard. I'm just going to go back and do what I used to do. That's conflict. You're also going to have the people around you as you start sharing new ideas, as you start sharing maybe some new beliefs and some new values. I found this conflict with my children. As I was working on my own personal growth, children are our greatest teachers. So as I'm working on moving forward, my kids are saying, whoa, what's up with mom? What's going on here? So I saw a lot of conflict with my children as I was moving through this. So that needed to be addressed. And I truly needed to step back and think about, okay, what's going on here? Am I really doing what I need to be doing? And I believe that conflict happens for one of 2 reasons. I believe it happens because we're either not on the right path. We're on a path, and it's, insert your deity here. I mean to encompass everyone who's listening. So whether it's God, whether it's universe, whatever you want to insert there, whomever, whatever you believe in, it's their way of saying, you know what, pause, take a breath, and really sort out if this is the path you truly want to be on. Or it's the same but a little different with a twist to it. It's the same thing, God, universe, source saying to you, okay, you declared this, you declared you want peace in your life. You need to work through some of these things, the conflict with your children. We're going to put this in front of you for you really to truly and clearly decide this is what you want to do. This is how you're going to move forward. So I believe it's asking you to double down a little bit on yourself. It's asking you to double down on what you really believe and what you're really thinking. So conflict is not something that you skirt around or you try to jump over or duck underneath or hide from. It's something that you sit with. You need to sit. You need to be uncomfortable being uncomfortable. I'm not saying stay there. Don't sit and wallow and stay in the conflict, but sit and feel. Now we're going back to feelings. How do you feel in this conflict? Try to point out those triggers. What's triggering you within all of this? And then you walk through it. It's the conflict and you walk through it. Sometimes it stays. It's a process. It's not going to leave immediately. And sometimes the conflict are things that you think are going to be a big deal and you just are able to step through them because you allow them to be. You re-clarify to yourself what it is you want, and you take the next right step. So that's it. Feelings, focus, fury. I want to give you just a couple of things to add to this. Tools. LifeVantage brought in John Maxwell a little while ago to do some training at convention, and I've had the opportunity to hear him speak a couple of times. And the one thing, there's many wonderful things that he talks about, but the one thing that always sticks with me is that all of our dreams, everything worthwhile, everything we want in our life is uphill, but we have a lot of downhill habits. So how do you go uphill with downhill habits when you keep rolling backwards? And so one of the suggestions he had was to create 5 daily habits, to sit down. And again, you're focusing, you're working back on those feelings and those focus. Determine what are 5 things that I could do every day that are going to help get me to my goal. So for me, one of those things, my 5 were physical activity. I knew getting out and moving my body was going to be beneficial. Meditation, also prayer, again, whatever you want to call it, meditation, prayer. Another one for me was adding value to somebody else's life. One for me, because I wasn't so great when I started with LifeVantage about taking pills. So one of my 5 daily habits was to make sure that I took my product. You have to start somewhere, right? And my 5th one was to journal, just to get some of my thoughts on paper, because a lot of my journey at the beginning was unbecoming. Before I could become who I was, I needed to unbecome a lot of things. So 5 daily habits. I challenge you to really think about that. What are 5 things that you could do every day to keep you moving forward? Again, as I talked about, this is a revolving process. This is you decide you're going to do this, you take action, and then you repeat it. Decide, take action, repeat. Decide, take action, repeat. That's what this is all about. And I'm just going to leave you, before I turn you over to Brenda, I'm just going to leave you with that this is about taking bite-sized pieces. This isn't about jumping hurdles. This is really about taking bite-sized pieces and just asking yourself, what is the next right step for me right now? Especially when things feel a little overwhelming and a little intense, really just ask yourself, what is the next best step for me right now? And do that. So that's me. I want to introduce you all to Brenda King. Brenda was an ICU nurse for 15 years before returning to school and getting her PhD in clinical psychology. And I'm just going to leave it there. And Brenda, if you want to unmute yourself, I'm going to turn this over to her, and she's going to share with you more about Nerf 1.
So quick, tell me how much time I have to talk. What time am I supposed to be done?
About 10, 15 minutes.
Okay, that sounds good, just so I know. So I'm going to tell you just really quickly how I got into LifeVantage and using these products. I started doing online coaching, and as part of that, I started exploring shamanism a little bit more, ran into Dr. Perlmutter, who does a whole lot on health and energy work and all kinds of things, read his book, Power Up Your Brain. He started talking about the importance of the mitochondria, NRF1, glutathione, and then Kristy had a post pop up on Facebook, and it's like, I need this, because the only way I'd seen to get my glutathione increased before was to go in and get IV infusions, which wasn't going to happen here in North Dakota. And so I started looking at the LifeVantage products, and totally bought in, because, and it was just one of the reasons I tell you this, as you're posting, as you're talking about the products and what you're doing, you might be surprised at who is watching, and they may be someone that comes to you once in a while instead of you reaching out to them, if you're kind of consistent in sharing this good information. Because if I wouldn't have seen her post pop up, it would have been a while before I would have even realized I could get these products in my body. And I'm a little, ICU nurse, psychologist. I'm a little bit of a science geek. I love mitochondria for lots of reasons. And I'm going to talk a little bit about our NRF1 activator. And so NRF1 stands for Nuclear Respiratory Factor 1. And the big thing that it does is increases energy and kind of improves cellular performance. And NRF1 really supports the mitochondria in our bodies. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the mitochondria because they're really cool. And mitochondria are little organelles that are in each cell in our body. And the mitochondria create 90% of our body's energy. They create 10% of what we weigh. So 10% of what you weigh is, if we took out all the mitochondria in your body, that's 10% of your weight. Some of our cells have thousands of mitochondria in them. So taking care of our mitochondria are really, really important. A couple of fun facts about mitochondria, just quick little, because it's interesting, is there's some theory that they actually used to be bacteria that got incorporated into our bodies and eventually became part of our body and how we created energy. And so it wasn't something that way back when humans started was part of us. And that's why they're a little bit different. Mitochondria only have maternal DNA. They don't have most DNA in our body, because all cells have their own DNA, which is composed of mother's and father's DNA. Mitochondria have their own DNA, which makes them unique. But one of the problems with this, because of having only the one DNA, is they're also more susceptible to oxidative stress. So even though they create all our energy, and they're super important, we really also need to take care of them because they're pretty vulnerable in terms of our body. And so they have like a higher mutation rate and struggle more when we're stressed. So, probably what was going on with Kristy is her mitochondria weren't working as well as they could. So she just wanted to sleep to try to get her mitochondria working. Found the products, body started working better. She did some other things. And so we need this NRF1. It's sometimes we don't, I didn't realize how important it was until I started doing some more research. So the things that the mitochondria do for us is they create and store energy. And one of the cool things about the mitochondria is they're like little batteries. So we talk about they flip on ATP production, and ATP is a protein, but it stores energy, so it's available when we need it. A lot of cellular processes create energy, but then it's kind of like a fire, it burns up and it's out, where our mitochondria can store it. So you can store it in your body, and then if you have to run fast, you've got this extra boost of energy that you can pull out of your mitochondria. They're called the powerhouse of the cell for that reason, because they hold all of our energy. The mitochondria also are responsible for sort of taking care of when cells are created, when cells are repaired and when cells are put out of commission because they're so damaged they're not any good anymore. And so having NRF1 and having good mitochondria means that we're getting good cell turnover and healthy cell turnover. So we're not making like photocopies of blurry pictures, but we're actually making photocopies of healthy cells, and we're copying healthy cells. And so it's, you know, again, these little parts in all of our cells kind of keep us really high energy. They sustain life. They're called like sort of the life energy, even though all cells create some energy. This is what gets us through our day. This is what wakes us up when we need to do things. It adds to, if you go work out at the gym, how quickly you recover. If you've got healthy DNA, you're going to recover much quicker after a late night out, going to the gym, doing things. You're going to find that you just bounce back faster. Part of what happens when we age is that our mitochondria don't get produced as quickly. They don't get changed over and repaired as quickly. And so the mitochondria are a big part of aging. Essentially, if we have healthy mitochondria, we age more slowly and we age much more in a healthy way. And the mitochondria, in addition to all the energy that it creates, it also does a whole lot of other things for us that we don't always talk about so much. So the mitochondria, which is supported by NRF1, is important for hemoglobin synthesis. Hemoglobin carries oxygen to our body, so we need NRF1 and mitochondria to carry oxygen around in our body. It detoxifies the liver. It reduces cholesterol because it's involved in cholesterol metabolism. It creates estrogen and testosterone synthesis. And so all those male and female hormones in our body, mitochondria and NRF1 are involved in that, and neurotransmitter. So when I first started reading with the Perlmutter and the Power Up Your Brain, it was about NRF1 and mitochondria and the importance of having that because it helps us think clearer, more effectively. And so there are a lot of illnesses that are associated with mitochondria problems. And in fact, there's one that is just called mitochondrial dysfunction, which is just sort of a kind of like early aging where your whole body is just ineffective and not working very well. And it's one of those sort of like adrenal fatigue that physicians don't necessarily diagnose, but that it's out there, and if you do research, you'll see it. So some of the other things that NRF1 and the mitochondria have been shown to have, there's like 747 studies on NRF1, which isn't quite as big as NRF2, but still important. We're also the only company that has a nutraceutical, I think I said that right, that includes NRF1. There's no other company out there that does that. And there are other pharmaceutical companies that are trying to produce one. So again, we've got something special here. But the other illnesses that it has some effect on, or the other disorders, are autism, I said Alzheimer's, Huntington's, Parkinson's, chronic fatigue, Lou Gehrig's, cardiomyopathy, even learning disabilities because it affects the brain. So when we, sometimes talk to people and, they say, how can your products like affect so many different things? And it's because we're not treating the symptoms. We're treating the underlying disease and the underlying way the body functions. And like NRF2 with the glutathione, reducing the oxidative stress, kind of takes that whole first layer and clears up so many problems in terms of aging and just living our lives and creating problems. It sort of clears off the rust. But what the NRF1 does is comes in and then helps us recycle, reclaim, reproduce, and then kind of create the new healthy cells to go along with getting rid of sort of the old dusty stuff. And so the more you kind of learn about what NRF1 does, you really realize that NRF1, NRF2, I mean, they just go together so completely that, you kind of wonder, why would someone take NRF2 without NRF1? Because of the way that they go hand in hand and complement each other. And so, you know, Nerf 1, it's taking 2 tablets. The best bet is if you take it so same time of day, every day. You can take them all at once. There's, you know, some people will say that if you take it half an hour later with fat, you're going to get the full effect of it. Pretty minimal, so take it. It's more important to just get it in your body. So if you take all your supplements at the same time, you're going to be good with that. I kind of rushed through that a lot, but it's just knowing that in terms of like muscle strength and recovery, Nerf 1 does wonders with that. In terms of your heart being strong and moving the blood to all the parts of your body, Nerf 1 is important for that. In terms of being able to sort of think clearly, Nerf 1 is important for that, because one of the other things that Nerf 1 does is all of our cells have like little branches that come out of them so they can communicate with each other, called neurites, because there's axons and dendrites, big fancy names. But these little branches that come off our cells, Nerf 1, part of what that protein does is create those connections between cells too. And so in terms of like the powerhouse and the energy in our cells, it gets all those batteries connected so that your energy system is working together, working in a coordinated way. And again, so you can really make use of that energy. And again, creating those new and healthy cells, because Nerf 1 and the mitochondria control the cell turnover of all cells. So whether it's brain cells, muscle cells, skin cells, when you have healthy mitochondria, then your body is acting like a kid's body and your cells get turned over faster. And as we age, if we don't take care of our body, then that cell turnover is slower, body becomes more sluggish, things become more effective. So I'm sold on Nerf 1. And so hopefully this gives you a little bit of information to be able to share with other people, and gets you excited about why you want to share it with other people. And there you go.
Awesome. Thank you, Brenda. All right, yes, everyone, that is our training this evening. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.
Thank you. That was awesome tonight, ladies.
Thank you.
Great info, thanks.
That was really great. That was great information.
Good, good.
Great information, both of you.